Hey, funny thing about change, it never knocks politely, never walks in with a smile and a bouquet of roses. No, real change creeps in like smoke under the door. Quiet, thick, choking, and before you know it, you're coughing on everything you thought was stable. You look around and suddenly nothing fits anymore. The people, the places, the conversations, it's all too small, too loud, too fake. Oh, discomfort. That little itch under your skin, that constant throb in your chest, that feeling you just don't belong anymore. People run from it, medicate it, bury it under fake smiles and empty distractions. But what if I told you discomfort is not some curse you're meant to escape? It's a whisper. A whisper from something higher, a nudge from the unseen hand, pulling you out of your comfort zone, dragging you, clawing you, straight into something bigger. But you don't see it like that, do you? You think it's bad luck, bad timing, bad karma, bad energy. You blame people, the job, the city, even your own reflection. But what if none of those were the enemy? What if discomfort was the only honest friend you ever had? Because let me tell you something about pain. It doesn't lie. Pain doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't pretend. When everything else plays dress up, pain rips the costume right off and shows you what's real. You think your life is falling apart, but it's not. It's just shedding. Like old skin peeling off. That sting you feel, that burn in your gut, that's growth. That's divine surgery without anesthesia. That's transformation before revelation. But the problem is you weren't taught to recognize it. You were trained like a little lab rat. Chase rewards, avoid pain. If it hurts, stop. If it's uncomfortable, run. But elevation doesn't come dressed in comfort. It doesn't show up with warm hugs and gentle music. It shows up as chaos, as confusion, as collapse. And oh, how beautifully brutal it is. When God wants to move you, He makes it impossible to stay still. When the next level calls, your current space starts choking you. That's why everything that once felt right suddenly feels wrong. That's why your old friends sound like static. Why the place you used to love starts to feel like a prison cell. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. But most people won't tell you that. No. They'll tell you to be grateful for what you have, stay grounded, be humble. Don't rock the boat. But tell me, how do you soar with clipped wings? How do you rise when everyone keeps tying weights to your feet? Discomfort is the fire, and you are the gold being refined inside it. You want to skip the burn but keep the shine. Doesn't work like that. You want purpose without pressure, growth without friction, light without heat. But the process doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about your evolution. You think you're being punished, but maybe you're just being prepared. You think everything's against you, but maybe everything is shifting for you. Maybe, just maybe, all this madness is method. Maybe this storm you're stuck in is not there to drown you, but to wash away everything that can't go with you to the next level. All those fake friends, those hollow routines, those soul-draining attachments, they can't come with you. You see, elevation demands sacrifice. And most of the time, the first thing sacrificed is your comfort. That's the price. That's the toll. That's the currency of transition. But here's the twist. Most people miss their elevation because they run back to what's familiar. They can't handle the in-between, that ugly, messy, lonely space between who they were and who they're meant to be. So they go back to the same old habits, the same old people, the same old lies. They'd rather feel safe in misery than uncomfortable in transformation. But if you're smart, if you're crazy enough to stay in the fight, something happens slowly, quietly. Your bones shift, your mind sharpens, your spirit roars, and one day, without even realizing it, you'll look around and realize you're not the same. You can't be the same. The version of you that entered the fire isn't the version that walks out of it. But oh, most won't get there. They'll tap out too early. Because discomfort doesn't come with a pretty label. It doesn't tell you, hey, this is elevation in disguise. No, it just wrecks everything, tests everything, strips everything. But if you pay attention, if you learn to read the signs, not through the lens of fear, but through the eyes of purpose, you'll start to see it. That discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. It's not the end. It's the push, the pull, the pressure that cracks the shell and lets the new version of you crawl out, bleeding, but breathing. Finally, breathing. Isolation. That eerie silence when the crowd disappears, when your phone stops buzzing, when no one calls, no one checks in, and suddenly the noise that kept you numb fades. You think you've been abandoned, don't you? You think something's wrong with you, like you've become invisible, like you're the ghost at your own party. But what if I told you that silence is not a punishment? It's a signal, a divine signal, a sacred pause just before the breakthrough. But people panic when the applause stops. They think the spotlight defines their worth. Oh, how fragile is that sense of self when it's built on noise. See, when you're about to be elevated, everything starts to go quiet. The world pulls back. The distractions dissolve. You sit there, alone with your thoughts, alone with your mess, and for the first time, you actually hear yourself, and it's uncomfortable. Because silence is the mirror that never lies. And that's where most people snap. That's where they break, because they can't bear to hear what their own soul sounds like without the echo of the crowd. They mistake solitude for suffering. They mistake peace for punishment. But let me tell you something, when the universe starts clearing the room, it's because the next version of you requires clarity. And clarity never comes through chaos. It comes in the stillness, in the awkward quiet, in the long nights where your mind spirals and you question your whole existence. You're not being forgotten, you're being focused. It's just that people don't recognize sacred separation. They see it as rejection when it's actually redirection. Because the higher you go, the quieter it gets. There's less oxygen at the top, fewer voices, fewer distractions. It's not crowded up there for a reason. Growth is noisy, but elevation is silent. You see, the spotlight is addictive, that validation, those likes, the cheers, the attention. It feeds the ego. But when God starts whispering about your next level, He doesn't shout over the noise, He pulls you aside. And when He does that, He removes anything that competes for your attention. That includes people. That includes habits. That includes those sweet little dopamine hits you thought you needed to survive. Suddenly, the things that used to excite you feel empty. The people you used to vibe with feel foreign, and you feel like you're falling apart. But maybe you're just falling into alignment. But people don't like that version of the story, do they? They want elevation to feel exciting, not lonely. They want destiny to feel like a parade, not a prison. But the cocoon isn't a party, it's confinement. It's dark, it's tight, and it's quiet. But inside that silence, the wings form. Inside that stillness, the change happens. You can't become a butterfly in the middle of a crowd. You need the quiet. You need the solitude. You need to be stripped of every noise that drowns your real identity. Because only in silence do you realize how loud your fears have been. Only in isolation do you learn whose voice really matters. Most people run back to noise. They reconnect with distractions just to feel alive again. But you, if you're wise, you'll sit in the silence. You'll face your thoughts. You'll wrestle with your doubts. You'll listen, because that's where it begins. Not in the chaos, but in the void. Not in the celebration, but in the confrontation. With your shadow, your scars, your truths. The silence shows you what noise tried to hide. And if you can stay long enough in that silence, something clicks, something shifts, something awakens. You start seeing with different eyes, hearing with different ears, walking with different steps. You stop craving noise and start craving meaning. You stop chasing attention and start chasing presence. But oh, the irony. Most people pray for a breakthrough, but when the silence comes, they run from it. Because they didn't know silence was part of the answer. They thought the shift would be loud, glorious, dramatic. But the real shift is subtle, quiet, still, like a storm that starts with a whisper. And in that whisper, everything changes. Not out there, in here. You ever notice how when you're on the edge of something great, everything starts falling apart? Not in a gentle, poetic kind of way. No, more like a glorious, chaotic, soul-crushing implosion. Plans fail, people leave, doors slam in your face, one after the other, like a cruel little joke from the universe. And you're left wondering if you're cursed, if you made a wrong turn somewhere, if maybe, just maybe, you're not cut out for what you were dreaming about. But what if that mess isn't the destruction of your path, but the construction of it? People want elevation wrapped in glitter and gold. They want transformation without tearing, but real transformation, oh, it comes with fire. It comes with pressure. You don't rise without falling first. You don't grow without losing first. You don't see clearly until life smashes your old lenses and hands you a new pair made out of every tear you cried in the dark. That's how it works. People, they want to skip the breakdown and jump straight to the breakthrough. But that's not how the game is played, darling. The collapse is part of the climb. You see, when you're being elevated, life doesn't just gently nudge things into place. No, it tears down everything you outgrew. It strips away the comfort, the crutches, the illusions, the people who were never meant to see your next level. It pulls the rug, flips the table, burns the blueprint, because what you thought you needed was never what would carry you forward. But the irony? You only realize that in hindsight. In the middle of it, you feel like you're drowning, like God forgot about you, like the ground has betrayed you. But that sinking feeling, that's not a fall, that's a reset. Ever seen a seed grow? It's buried in darkness before it sees light. It breaks open before it becomes something. You don't see the process underground, but it's messy, it's violent, it's uncomfortable. That seed doesn't just bloom magically. It fights, it wrestles with soil, it pushes through pressure. And when it finally breaks the surface, that's when everyone applauds. But no one claps for the struggle it endured in silence. You're that seed. Your life's cracking open, not falling apart. And if you could see the roots forming beneath the chaos, maybe you'd stop mourning the mess. But oh, people love certainty. They love plans, schedules, control. And when all of that collapses, they panic. They think the chaos is a curse. But what if it's calibration? What if the reason you feel like you're losing everything is because you're being restructured to carry something bigger? What if that tension in your chest is just your soul stretching? You can't fit old patterns into a new life. You can't carry destiny with weak foundations. So life breaks what needs breaking. It prunes what won't serve you. It disturbs what you settled for. You start losing friends, don't you? Not in some tragic, dramatic fallout, but slowly. Conversations fade, energy disconnects. You start feeling like you're outgrowing your own skin. The things that once lit you up start feeling dim. The noise that once entertained you starts feeling toxic. And deep down, something in you knows you're not the same anymore. You're not meant to stay in the same spaces, say the same things, think the same way. It's uncomfortable, it's lonely, but it's necessary. Because no one tells you elevation is lonely. But loneliness doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes it means you're being hidden while you transform. And just when you think you've reached your limit, just when you're about to break under the weight of it all, something shifts. Subtly, quietly. You start seeing clearer. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for things that once consumed you. You start walking differently, not arrogantly, but intentionally. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who never saw you. That's the shift. That's elevation. Not some loud miracle, not some overnight success, but an internal rebirth. But the twist is, you had to lose yourself to find yourself. You had to be shattered to be shaped. You had to feel forgotten so you could finally remember who you are. Not who they told you to be, not who you became to survive, but who you were always meant to become. And everything that left, everything that crumbled, it was just clearing space for the next version of you to rise from the ashes of who you used to be. So you want to know what it feels like when your appetite for the ordinary suddenly turns sour. When things that once gave you joy now taste like ash on your tongue. When conversations become noise, people feel like shadows, and you start looking at the world as if you've just woken up from a long, ridiculous dream. Strange, isn't it? That moment when what used to fit you so well now feels like a suffocating costume. Like you've been wearing a mask, smiling at the circus, clapping at the show, until you realize the joke's been on you all along. You don't notice it at first. It creeps in quiet and patient. The things that used to light you up don't. The people you used to laugh with start sounding empty. The plans you once made with such excitement begin to rot in your mind before they even take form. And no, nothing external has changed. Same city, same job, same faces. But inside, oh, inside, a storm is brewing. You start feeling like a stranger in your own story. Like you're walking around in a life that doesn't belong to you anymore. You try to force it. You try to smile wider, laugh louder, distract yourself with more noise. But nothing sticks. Nothing fills that void. That ache in your chest that whispers, this isn't it anymore. You look around and everyone else still seems fine, still hypnotized, still satisfied with scraps. And you start wondering, is it just you? Are you broken? Did something go wrong inside your head? Or maybe, just maybe, you're waking up. Waking up to a truth that most people never dare to face. You've outgrown what used to feed you. And that, my friend, is the most dangerous kind of shift. Not one triggered by tragedy or trauma. No, this one is subtle. It's spiritual. It's internal. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't ask for attention. It just quietly strips away the illusion of comfort you wrapped around your soul for so long. It pulls the rug slowly, carefully, until one day you realize you're standing barefoot on the cold floor of truth, and the carpet was never real to begin with. You stop wanting to impress. You stop needing to explain. You stop engaging in small talk, small minds, small dreams. You crave silence more than applause. Depth over noise. Purpose over popularity. You find yourself staring out windows more often, sitting with your thoughts longer. Not because you're sad, but because you're searching. Searching for something beyond what this world offers. And the funny thing is, people around you start noticing. They say you've changed. Of course you have. You were never meant to stay the same. That's the whole point. But oh, it gets lonely. Elevation always does. Because when you start rising, the air gets thinner, the crowd gets smaller. You start shedding layers you thought were part of you. Beliefs, habits, patterns, even people. And every piece you let go of leaves a scar. But not all scars are wounds. Some are symbols. You begin to see through the charade, the way people cling to mediocrity and call it stability, the way they settle for less and call it loyalty, the way they dim their own fire and call it humility. And you start choosing differently, not louder, not grander, just differently. You choose solitude over shallow company, truth over comfort, growth over approval. And it costs you. Oh, it costs you everything that was never meant to stay in your next chapter. You find peace in places you used to avoid. Books become more intoxicating than parties. Long walks more satisfying than hollow conversations. You stop chasing closure from people who were never meant to understand you. You stop begging for love that comes with conditions. You stop performing for a crowd that claps for your mask but fears your truth. That's the shift. That's when you know your soul has grown too large to fit inside your old life. You don't even try to explain it anymore. You let people talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them whisper. You just keep walking because deep down you know nothing's wrong with you. You're just evolving. You're just shedding illusions. You're just becoming what you were always meant to be before this world convinced you to shrink, to settle, to smile when you wanted to scream, to say yes when your soul whispered no.